Welcome to tonight's Tanya class. We are in Tanya, in the last section of Tanya called Kuntros Achroin, last few chapters, and we are holding chapter 4. It happens to be a very, very big chapter, probably one of the biggest chapters in Tanya, and one of the most deepest chapters in Tanya. So you guys are in for a big treat. Relax and enjoy some heavy, heavy Kabbalah here, and you're in for a nice, God willing, a nice big treat. Okay, so as always, I try to find, a theme that Tanya has to offer, and this way we can take the theme and expand on it. So here the Alter Rebbe is teaching us two very, very important ideas, two very powerful Kabbalistic ideas. The first idea is the power of prayer to heal. We all know that there are certain heavy, special powers in the world, and one of the most powerful powers that exists is prayer, because prayer has the power, it can heal. It means God puts someone sick, and even medically and scientifically, they say the person's not well, and who knows what's going to happen. And if you pray for the person will get better, and it works. So, and here we're going to learn Kabbalistically, it's very powerful, how it works, that the power of prayer actually works that can heal somebody. So that's the first part of the chapter. And the second part of the chapter, the Alter Rebbe deals with a second issue, and that is the powerful connection to God through mitzvot. We know God gave us 613 commandments in the Torah, 248 positive, 365 negative, and the mitzvot is basically a connection. By doing a mixture, you're connecting to God. So we're going to learn Kabbalistically the reason behind the powerful aspect of mitzvot. So those are really the two subjects in this chapter. Again, the powerful impact of prayer that can heal, and the second part is the powerful impact of mitzvot that allows us to connect to Hashem in a deep way. Okay, so the Alter Rebbe starts off and he quotes from Xayim, which is obviously some of the books on Kabbalah. And the Xayim makes a statement, and we know if Xayim makes a statement, it's a true statement, and it's an impactful statement. And the Xayim, it says like this. I'll give you a little introduction to understand the statement. Originally, when Hashem created the world, so Hashem is good. He wanted to give us everything. So when you want to give everything, you just give it all. Now, when Hashem is giving everything, guess what? It's everything. Now, what happens is when Hashem gave everything, we call it light. Light is called giving. It's energy. Hashem is giving all this powerful light. But guess what? The vessels, because every light needs a vessel. So you had this huge gift from God, overabundance, but there was no vessels to receive it. So what happens when you have a lot of light and no vessels to receive it, but the light goes into the vessels of this world, so the vessels shatter. The vessels shatter. So initially when God created the world, there was tremendous light, wasn't strong enough vessels, so the vessels shattered. So that's called Olam HaTohu. You heard the term, I'm sure, many times. Olam HaTohu and Olam HaTikun. The difference between Tohu and Tikun is very simple. Tohu means the lights are abundant and there's no vessels to handle it. So, for example, you take, let's say, a child in kindergarten, you want to teach him algebra, some deep mathematical stuff. You're going to break the kid because it's like overwhelming for him. Or even take a third grader and try to teach him, high school math or college. It just doesn't work that way. Olam HaTohu means when the light is so powerful and the vessels obviously cannot handle it. That's Olam HaTohu. Olam HaTikun is where you have light, it fits the vessel. You teach a kindergarten, that age-appropriate stuff. You teach an adult, age-appropriate stuff. So what happened was, originally when Hashem created the world, so again, all this heavy light comes in, the vessels couldn't handle it, so the vessels shattered. And the vessels got dispersed all over the world. Now what happens is, because these are very powerful vessels, it means it touched this very powerful light, so there's a lot of holy sparks in there. And one of our jobs in this world is to go around and collect these holy sparks. So our job in Galut is to go ahead and collect, and it says there was 288 holy sparks that's dispersed all over the world. This is the debate whether we finished it, we're just polishing the buttons. That's another discussion. We're not going to focus on that right now. But the fact is there was 288 sparks that were dispersed all over the world, and they go into the category of the holy sparks. But where are they all over the world? Not in a place, God forbid, that we cannot elevate. For example, if they were in Shalosh Kilipat Atzilut, we wouldn't be able to elevate them. But they're in Kilipat Nogah, which means it's neutral territory. It means when we find them, and we elevate them, another spark is elevated, another spark is elevated. So as we go around in life and we engage in things which are neutral, so for example, you buy food in the store. Let's say you buy a fish that came from the water, and there was one of those special diamonds, one of those holy sparks in there, and you bought it, and you made a blessing on it, or even how much more have you used it for Shabbat, and you made a blessing on it, boom, you just elevated one of these holy sparks. Now, so that's our job in this world, to elevate these holy sparks. So in Pre-Eitz Chaim, it says like this, that today, in this era, the main transformation of these holy sparks in Kilipat Nogah is through prayer. Interesting. Not Torah, not mitzvot, even though it's important to study Torah, it's important to do mitzvot, but we're talking about the transforming today of these holy sparks that are in Kilipat Nogah from these 288 sparks is through prayer. So obviously the big question is, why not mitzvot? Because mitzvot, we also elevate things. Why not Torah? And the Alter Rebbe is going to explain it. Now, what's the question? Because we all know it says that the Talmud Torah, we say it every single one in the prayer service, that the Talmud Torah connected kulam. Talmud is very, very powerful. It's more powerful than everything. So here we're saying, no, Pri-Eitz Chaim says the prayer is more powerful. So the question is why? So the Alter explains like this, that originally when Hashem created the world, Hashem created the world. And in the world we have everything. There's light in all the worlds. Now, just an introduction again. You might know this, but just to give the class a complete picture. So we know there's 4 worlds. Atzilut, which means it's the closest to God. It means more light, less darkness. The world of Bria already, so you have less light, more darkness. Yetzirah, again, less light, more darkness. Till the world of Asiya, less light and more darkness. Atzilut is closest to God. Bria is already creation. Yetzirah is formation. Asiya is the world of action. So there are 4 different levels of worlds. Now, when Hashem created the world, He put in light into each one. Our goal in life is what? To create more light. More light where? Obviously in all the worlds, because we want to have Hashem revealed. So what happens is like this. Hashem gave light in all the worlds. But what happens when you sit down, for example, to sit down and study Torah, or you do a mitzvah, so what happens? I'm taking you now behind the scenes. And you're sitting down, we sit down, we study Torah. We take out a Chumash, Mishnah, Talmud, whatever, from the books in the library, or in shul, or at home, and you're studying Torah. You're listening to our class, you're studying Torah. Or you're going and doing, what happens then? So you think you're just studying Torah, using your mind, right? I understand, I don't understand, what's this mean, what does that mean? But so that's on a superficial what's happening. What really is happening, according to the Zohar, you're actually, as you're studying Torah, Hashem is studying with you, and what happens is you're adding to the light in the world of Atzilut. And every minute, every hour, every day, as long as you're studying Torah, you're literally creating more light in the world of Atzilut. Every time you do a mitzvah, you're creating more light in the world of Atzilut. Heavy stuff. Now, what happens when you create this light in the world of Atzilut? So when you study Torah, what are you using your brain? So when you study Torah, you're using your brain, so therefore we know in each world there's the 10 sefirot, the 3 intellect, the 7 emotions. So when you study Torah, you're primarily studying with your brain, even though you use your speech. Sometimes you get excited, but you're primarily using your brain. So you add light into Chabad, in the intellect aspect of the world of Atzilut. What happens when you do a mitzvah? So you're adding light into the emotions of the world of Atzilut. Now, once you do that, so what happens to that light? That load, it starts off in the world of Atzilut. All of a sudden, the light goes on in the world of Atzilut. The light goes on in the world of, both in the intellect, if you're studying Torah, or if you're in the emotional sefirot, if you're doing a mitzvah. But once the light goes on, a greater light, more light than Hashem initially gave, you create more light, it goes out to the world of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. So eventually the light comes back down here. So it's like a cycle. You sit down and study Torah, you do a mitzvah, you create light in the world of Atzilut, which goes down to Bria, Yetzirah, Asiya, and as a matter of fact, we all know when you study Torah, all of a sudden you're like in a light space, right? In a holy space. How did that happen? So first it went up to that Atzilut, because the light doesn't create it here. We're like we're at the end of the tunnel. So it goes up there, it creates more light in Atzilut, which obviously comes down into this world. Now, so the light comes into this world, but here's a key point. When the light comes in this world, the light's in the world. It doesn't change the world. The world stays the same world. The light is on. The chair is the same chair, the table's the same table, the floor, right? The only thing is the light goes on. Now, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. If it's dirty, you don't want to see it. But we're talking about spiritual light. So what the point is that the light goes on, but it doesn't change the world. So you're studying Torah, all of a sudden, wow, I see things differently. It's great because the light went on. You do a mitzvah, all of a sudden you have a whole different perspective. The light went on. Now, but the Alter Rebbe says that's with Torah study, and that's when you do a mitzvah. But what happens when you do prayer, when you do tefla, and you start praying, and you pray deeply? So what happens when you pray? You're using kavanah, you're using heavy emotions, you're using your heart, you're using intellect as well, but it's prayer. Prayer means you're opening up your heart to Hashem. So when you open up your heart to Hashem, what happens then? It goes up high, it goes into the world of Atzilut, but then, and here's the major difference. That when it comes down back into this world, by Torah and Mitzvot, it's like a light went on. But when prayer, it's not only a light went on. The light comes in this world and can change things in the world. See, Torah and Mitzvot, the light in Atzilut, it comes down, it's light, very nice, beautiful. No change, but it's light. It's nice to be in the light. By prayer, when prayer comes down to this world, the prayer comes down to this world, but it actually can affect change. That's why when you pray for someone that's sick, God forbid, what happens? Your prayer goes on high. The prayer goes on high. It goes into the world of Atzilut, and then it comes down. It doesn't just only shine in this world. It actually digs into the world and causes change. That's why God forbid, if someone's not well, the person can become well. If someone needs a blessing for parnasah, for livelihood, the person all of a sudden new channels of blessing are going to open up to them that they never had before. That all they thought that how they're going to pay their mortgage this month, and there's no practical way. And you're right, there's no all of a sudden when you pray, light goes to Atzilut, it comes down, and all of a sudden it changes things. You know, it's 1 + 1, which is normally 2. All of a sudden, 1 + 1 = 3. How? I don't know. But through prayer has that powerful impact that it can do that. Now, what's the reason why? How does prayer have the power to do that? So the Alter explains as follows. That when a person prays, and you have to pray, as we said in Shema, it says, B'chol levavcha, with your whole heart, B'chol nafshecha, with your whole soul, and the deepest level is B'chol ma'idcha, when you're like giving it all you got, when you open up your guts to Hashem, when you open up your whole soul and your whole heart to Hashem. So when you pray B'chol ma'idcha, I'm going to use the Kabbalistic word, you create something which is called mayim nukfin. Now, as mayim dechurim is when the inspiration comes from above. Mayim nukfin is when from the below you're creating a passion. From below you're creating water. Usually water comes from above. But you pray so much that you actually create mayim nukfin. Now what happens then is these powerful waters go up on high and it reaches, I'm going to give you an introduction again. We know Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, there's several permutations to it. There's several permutations. So Yud Kei Vav Kei could be done with an aleph, with a vav, with a hey or yud, and that creates different names of Hashem, Kabbalistic names. One is called Shem Sag, Samach Gimel. One is called Ban, Beis Nun. One is called Ma, Mem Hey, which Ban is 52, Ma is 45, and one other one is called Ab, which is 72. I mean, obviously we can have a class in each one of these names, but obviously we're not going to go in. This is like heavy stuff. This class could be subdivided into 20 classes. And actually, initially I was thinking of doing that, but we have a pattern that we do a chapter a week. So my job is to give you the whole thing in an hour or whatever it takes to give you this chapter, and then we can have other classes to go back and review. This is heavy stuff. So what happens is, so when you pray, so that mayim nukfin goes up to the world of Atzilut, and it goes even higher. And where does it go to? It reaches the name Sag. Samach Gimel, 63, which is a very high name. And when it goes into the name Sag, that's actually the root of the power of the 288 holy sparks. Just like initially when Hashem created the world, there was a heavy light which caused the 288 sparks to go all over the place. That came from which name of Hashem? Sag. Samach Gimel, 63, lucky number. Right? So that goes up there, and what happens is, when it goes up there, it reaches a place which is called Bli Gvul. In other words, we're used to limits, finites. 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4, whatever. It's all calculated things. But when you pray, B'chol ma'idcha, creates mayim nukfin. So now it goes up all the way to where? Shem Sag, which is the source of the 288 holy sparks. It opens up Bli Gvul, infinite light. And when infinite comes in, guess what? You can have every reason why the person shouldn't be well. Infinite comes in. Is that a calculation? There's no calculation. Boo, the person's well. You're struggling, infinite comes in, everything works out. That's the power of prayer. The power of prayer is what the Alter Rebbe was showing us, that it goes up through the Mayim Nukfim, your Mechol Mo'idcha, it touches Sag, and it brings down infinite light, which has the power to transform the world.
Like the miracle son, right?
Miracle, exactly. Yes. And that's what the Alter Rebbe says. We know that in the Talmud it says, prayer is called Chaye Shah. Now the literal meaning in the Talmud, we know the simple meaning. The simple meaning in the Talmud is, the reason why it's called Chaye Shah in the Talmud is like this. Because generally speaking, what are you praying for? Shah. What does Shah mean? Temporary stuff, finite stuff, materialism. We usually pray for the cheap seat, so to speak. We don't have the brains, to pray for the big stuff. That's what it says. Called Chai Shah. We're praying for small stuff. Yeah, right. That's on a simple level. But according to Kabbalah, why is it called Chai Shah? Because on the Sfirot, and again, trust me, this class can be 100 classes, but we're going to have to go through it because I want to try to give you the full class. But in the 10 Sfirot, so you have the highest is what? Well, depends if you count Kesser, you count Chachma, but the lowest sphere is called Malchut. Malchut is the most, the one that's related more to reality. So what happens is, so Malchus, even though it's the lowest, but has the power that it brings down the light into the lower worlds. So prayer is called Chai Shah because Shah, which is finite, refers to Malchut. Why? Because Malchut has the power to bring it down to this world. So that's why prayer is called Chai Shah, because it has the power to bring down this powerful legal energy where not out there in space. No, right here. You can bring in that infinite energy that causes healing and blessing and success off the charts. Now, however, Torah, what's Torah called? Torah is called Chaye Olam. Why is it called Chaye Olam? Because Olam is a reference to Zer Ampin, which is a small face, which is calling the 6 midot of the world of Atzilut. Because as we know that when you study Torah, you mentioned before already, it creates light where? Into the world of Atzilut. And then obviously it comes down from there. That's why it's called Chaye Olam. Now, so here the Alter Rebbe goes on to like a little side, but an important idea. And he says like this. What we learned over here that it says that when a person does the 248 mitzvot, because we have 613 total, but when you do the 248 positive mitzvot, it creates vessels of the 10 sfirot of Zah and Atzilut. So when you do the mitzvot, Torah creates the light, we said, where in Chachma of Atzilut. Mitzvot create where the light in the emotions. What's the emotions? The 6 midot, Zer Ampin, and in the vessels of Atzilut. So that's what the Alter Rebbe just said here right now. The Alter says, hold on a second, I want to make a disclaimer. Because I just said that when you do mitzvot, the 248 positive, you're creating light in the world of Atzilut, in Zah. So he says, but we know it says in the Zohar that when a person does the 248 mitzvot, so it actually goes up to Hei Chasadim, which is another whole class in itself. A lot of heavy terms. Take notes, and we'll talk about it over Shabbat and Farbrengens, whatever. We'll have other classes discuss it. But in the Zohar, it says that when a person does the 248 mitzvot, it creates the light in Hei Chasadim, 5 attribute of Chesed, and the 365 negative commandments create the light in Hei Gvurot of Zah. So in Zah itself, in the 6 midot, the 248 do in the 5 of Chesed, and the 365 negative do it in the 5 of Gvura. So that's different to what we just learned, that it just goes in the spirit of that. It doesn't make a difference from Chesed to Gvura. It just goes neutral, and here he's dividing it up. But then Dr. quotes another place in the Zohar. Another place in Zohar says that when a person does a mitzvah, it creates, the word in Hebrew is lavnunit, which means white. White where? In Keser Elyon. Notice this Keser, which is the highest sphere, Ratzon, Tainug, and the highest level of Keser where it's totally pure white, that's where it creates the powerful light. Now, if it's keser, elyon, and it's pure white, it's 100% chesed. Chesed is white. Gvura is red, as we know. So another place it says that when you do a mitzvah, go straight to keser elyon, where it's 100% pure white, and that's the idea of chesed. And here we're saying it's both. So we have three different sources of what happens when you do mitzvot. So the Alter Rebbe explains like this, and he gives an introduction. He says as follows: that why are we doing mitzvot? Hashem gave us commandments. What's the reason why Hashem gave us commandments? So the Alter Rebbe explains very, very simple. That the purpose of the mitzvot is that we should fix the 248 limbs of Zah. And as you have, again, we said mitzvot is for the emotions, which is Zah, Zerah, and the 6 midot. And in the 6 midot, there's 248 limbs. So every time we do a mitzvah, kashrus, Shabbat, Chagim, whatever it is, every time you do a mitzvah, you're fixing another one of the limbs in Zah of Atzilut. And then you draw down the light into chesed, gvura, whatever it may be. So like, for example, there are certain mitzvot of chesed, certain mitzvot of gvura, charity is chesed, certain things are more measurement, so it's gvura, and so on and so forth. So the point is, after giving an introduction, that the purpose of the mitzvah is to fix the 248 limbs of Zah, depending if it's a chesed mitzvah or a gvura mitzvah. So based on that introduction, the Alter Rebbe says very simple. What was the first thing he said? That the Alter Rebbe says that the mitzvot create light in Zah. So that's the purpose of the mitzvot, to create light in Zah. Now the fact is, when a person does a mitzvah, so you do a mitzvah, some mitzvahs are rooted in chesed and some are rooted in gvura. So depending on where it's rooted in, that's where will create the transformation. Because when it goes through, for example, every mitzvah you do, you think about the mitzvah. Now when you think about it, depending if it could be right-oriented or left-oriented. Now, so depending on what type of mitzvah, that's what it is. But then on the other hand, we said that it comes from love, it's pure. So Alter says something very, very powerful. Think about any single person that does a mitzvah. Why are you doing the mitzvah? You're doing the mitzvah because you want to draw down godly light. Is that coming from a place of chesed or gvura? There's the reason why you want to do it. The reason why, because you want to draw down godly, that's an act of chesed. So in other words, when we're referring to the reason why you want to do it, that's keser elyon, loiven. Any person that wants to do a mitzvah, that's 100% pure. Why do you think he's doing the mitzvah? To draw in the light. Now, depending on your style and depending on the specific mitzvah, it's either going to be drawing down a chesed light or a gvura light. But the source why you're doing it, okay. So in other words, like this. So it's very, very simple. So the purpose why we're doing the mitzvah is to fix the 248 limbs in Zah. That's what's our Alter Rebbe is referencing over here. This that Zohar and says sometimes it's chesed and gvura, depending on type of mitzvah. And this one it says 100% chesed, that's referring to what? The reason why we want to do mitzvot in general. Now, so the Alter Rebbe explains, based on this, we know that Moshe Rabbeinu, he wanted very, very much to go into the land of Israel. Why do you want to go into the land of Israel? He lived a good life. Hashem was taking him, right? But he wanted to specifically go into the land of Israel. Why? Because why do he want to go into the land? It's very simple. Because the fact is, if he would have gone to the land of Israel, what would he want to go in for? He wanted to do mitzvot. Now, mitzvot, the most powerful mitzvot is when you do them in the land of Israel. Because it's mitzvot, you're doing it in the land of Israel, and you're drawing down these powerful lights. Because he wanted to bring down, as we do, you do a mitzvah, right? So the light goes up into Atzilut, and then it comes down to Bri, Yitzira, Asiya. But he wanted to bring it down into Asiya, where? Specifically into the land of Israel. And that's why he wanted to go into the land of Israel. Now, so back to the point, to recap, because we went on a sidetrack about the mitzvot, with Zav, Atzilut, Chesed, Gvura. And after, based on this, he explains why prayer is so powerful. Because when you pray, what happens again, we said, the light goes up. And in the world of Sag, right, of higher of Atzilut, it brings down the light, and it allows the light to come down and transform the world. Now, the Alter explains very simple. In the past, when people were much more refined, they would walk in, they would do prayer, they were able, and they were more pure, so that the process was much, much quicker. But today, hi, welcome, come inside, come. But today we're come and join the Tanya class. Okay, but today, since we're not so refined, today we have to spend more time praying. We have to meditate on prayer. We have to think what we're saying. Why? Because as we work on ourselves to create a solid prayer, guess what? We're bringing up the light, goes into Atzilut, and brings it down, and we have power to change the world. So that's why prayer today is very, very, very powerful, very, very important. Now, so up until here, which is the first part of the chapter, the Alter Rebbe explained at length, so this is the recap for just walked in, the Alter Rebbe explained at length the reason why today, according to the Zohar, it's very, very important, and specifically today, that through prayer, we create the transformation, the elevation of the holy sparks, because the prayer is the only one that has the power to come in here and actually change things. So when the prayer comes in and changes the world, you're actually elevating really the holy sparks, because the holy sparks are stuck, and by prayer, you're able to literally change the world. By changing the world, you're actually elevating the holy sparks. So that was what, up until now, he spoke about the focus of prayer. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about the power of mitzvot. So, we know it's brought down in the Talmud, it says like this, that there's a big debate. What's higher? Torah study, prayer, mitzvot, big debate. And it goes back and forth. But there is one rule like this, that what happens if you're praying, you're working on yourself praying, and it's time for prayer, and it's a mitzvah that has to be done. So what do? Do you stop and do the mitzvah, or do you continue praying? Why? Because it goes back to the debate. Is prayer higher or is mitzvot higher? So on one hand, we say that mitzvot are higher because mitzvot transform the world. On the other hand, prayer we higher because prayer makes you a better person, and it has the power to create even greater change. So the Talmud says like this: what happens if you're praying and there's a mitzvah to do? So if there's someone else do the mitzvah, let someone else do it. The main thing is the mitzvah should get done. Let's say someone needs help. So is someone else to help? Yeah, so let me continue praying. Let me continue Torah study. So meanwhile, I'm studying Torah, I'm praying, and the mitzvah's happening. I don't have to do the mitzvah. The mitzvah has to happen. I don't necessarily have to be the one doing it. But let's say there's no one to do the mitzvah. Guess what? You got to stop what you're doing and go do the mitzvah. Why? Again, because, what did we say before? The whole purpose is to elevate the world. So the truth is, as we said before, prayer has the greatest power to do elevation. But mitzvot also elevate the world. So therefore, if there's nobody to do the mitzvah, you have to stop what you're doing to go ahead and elevate the world. Now, so that's as an introduction to this section. And now that I'm going to explain why mitzvot is so powerful. And the Alter Rebbe says like this. There's a concept, many concepts, as you can tell, a lot of concepts. Keep notes on. Okay, there's a concept in Kabbalah. It says like this, that there's something which is called, when you connect to God, so you can connect to, I'll use the two Hebrew words and I'll translate it. There's something which is called mehus, which I'll translate it as essence, even though I can explain it even deeper, but for right now it's called the essence. And the mitzias is more like the external aspect. I'm giving you a short synopsis of what the idea is. So mehus is the essence of something, and mitzias is the thing. So for example, let's say you're flying over a country. Pick any country you want. See, I said, you went to this country? Sure, I flew over it. Did you? Sure you did. What do you know of the country? Nothing. What happens if you actually land there and you spend time there and you get to know the people, you get to know the place, and you get to know, the whole culture? Now already you're connecting to the essence of the place. Same thing with God also. You could have, okay, I know, God. Everyone knows God. But do you know God? Have you connected to the essence? Is it, we call it DMC. Did you have a deep, meaningful conversation? Do you have a deep relationship with God? So there's something which is called the mechus of something and the metzias of something. So for example, let's take it a step further. Let's say there's a mitzvah in the Torah. God says, for example, on Pesach to eat matzah. You have to eat matzah. So you sit and you study and you meditate about matzot and all the Kabbalistic insights and so on and so forth. But the bottom line is, you don't eat matzah. So have you connected to the mehus or the mitziut of matzah? The essence or the idea behind matzah? It's the idea, it's not the essence. What happens on the other hand if you went ahead and you sat down, you ate the matzah, you sat down and ate it, and you didn't really study much about it. You came to the Seder, you were busy a whole, last couple of months, and you came to the Seder, and you eat the matzah. Did you connect to the essence or to the idea behind matzah?
To the idea.
So it might sound like the idea, but the fact is, no, you connected to the essence. Why? The essence of the mitzvah. Not the essence of the idea, the essence of the mitzvah. Because a mitzvah means God saying, eat the matzah. So the essence of the mitzvah is to eat the matzah. All the meditation in the world of meditation might be the essence, but nothing to do with the mitzvah. In terms of the mitzvah, it's not the essence. It's just the idea behind it. So, for example, like this. So you can meditate about the greatest things about God. Where are you going to get to? You're only going to get so far. Like Abraham said, Abraham loved God. Abraham loved God, and he loved everybody. Who personified love? Abraham. What did Abraham say? So it says in the Torah, he said, "Vanoichi offer ve'efer." I'm dust and ashes. I'm dust and ashes. Why is he dust and ashes? And they explain according to Kabbalah very, very simple. Abraham was saying a very powerful idea. Take, for example, you have a tree. You have a tree. Beautiful big tree. Beautiful big tree. Gorgeous tree. It gives off fruit. It gives off shade. I mean, a nice big tree. And God forbid, you take the tree, you burn it down. What are you left with? The ashes. Air is gone. Water's gone. The fire is gone. You're left with a pile of ashes. Now, is these ashes the tree or not? Huh? Yes or no? Is it?
Yes.
Yes. Very good. He's been in this class before. It's the tree. The ashes of the tree. And I say to you, okay, let's take these ashes and let's make believe we still have the tree here. Or take another tree, a mirror image of the tree. And you look at the two. Is there any correlation between this pile of ashes and that tree? Nothing. It's the tree. Air is gone, right? Fire is gone. Water. It's the tree. But on the other hand, it's not. So what does that mean? It means like this. When you think about God, how great He is, and you meditate on God, guess what? We're finite. God's infinite. Do we have any connection with God? Just like the ashes has a connection to that tree, that's the same way. It is the tree, but where's the connection? Or like, for example, the angels say, Kadosh, Kadosh, right? God is holy. Like, they really understand God to say that He's really holy. Oh. But on the other hand, so you can meditate as much as you want. What did God tell Moshe Rabbeinu? The most you're going to get to see is the back. You're never going to touch me, because Hashem is infinite, we're finite. But on the other hand, when a person does a mitzvah, we know a mitzvah, anytime you do a mitzvah, every mitzvah is called Maaseh Elokim. It's the action of Hashem. Why? Because in every mitzvah, think of any mitzvah, mezuzah, tefillin, kasher, Shabbos, and this is very powerful. I'm taking you now into the back door. Hashem infuses into the mitzvah chesed of zah, of Atzilut, that travels down every single world, Bria, Yetzira, Asiya, into this world. And when you're doing a mitzvah, you're literally touching the infinite part of Hashem. Not only when you do the mitzvah, and this is very, very powerful, not only when you physically do the mitzvah, but let's say you take out Shulchan Aruch, Code of the Jewish Law, or Mishnah and Talmud, and you study about the mitzvah. Guess what? When you're also touching Hashem. Because this is what Hashem says. This is how you do the mitzvahs, and this is the parameters of the mitzvahs. Anytime you do a mitzvah, or you study about the mitzvah, you're actually connecting to what? You're actually connecting to the essence of Hashem. And that's why mitzvot are very, very powerful. Now, and this is very interesting. The Alter Rebbe says this. What happens when you learn Kabbalah? We all love learn Kabbalah, Tanya, and everything. And the Alter Rebbe says, and again, don't go off your high horse if you love Kabbalah, but the Alter Rebbe says, guess what? Are you touching the essence of Hashem or the mitzvahs of Hashem? When you study Kabbalah and mysticism and you meditate, what are you studying? What are you connecting to? Only the mitzvah, not the essence. Not the essence. Because the essence you get when you're doing the commandment. And when you're learning about the commandment. Then you're connecting to the essence of Hashem. However, if you're studying Kabbalah, you're just connecting to the mitzvahs of Hashem. Nevertheless, it's a huge mitzvah. It's a very, very important mitzvah. Why? Because it says in Deuteronomy, the Yadaita Hayoim, God says v'yadaita, you should know today. It means God wants us to use our mind to know and understand and comprehend God and godliness. Or, for example, it says in the prophets, in Divrei Yomim, Das Elokei Avicha. God says you should know the God of your fathers. You should know Hashem. Why? Because that will bring you v'avdeyu b'leiv avshalim. In order to serve God with a complete heart, you have to know Hashem. How can you serve God with a complete heart? Because you can functionally do the mitzvot, 100%. Because you can functionally do the mitzvot without knowing Hashem. But in order to serve Hashem with your whole heart, when you do the mitzvah, you're feeling the relationship. You're having yiras Hashem. Because we know it says in the Torah, in Deuteronomy, as Hashem lasses kol hachukim, Hashem commands us to do all the statutes and the purposes. The Torah says, yiras Hashem, that we should be in awe of Hashem. So the whole purpose is to be in awe of Hashem. So without studying Kabbalah, without studying Chassidut, you're never going to get there. How could you come to a place of being in awe of Hashem, loving Hashem, and having an emotional relationship without studying Kabbalah and Chassidut? So again, you're not getting the essence of Hashem, but you're going to get the essence of the mitzvah of v'yadat Hashem and to das elokei avicha and so on and so forth. Now, so that's why it's very, very important. But guess what? And it's 100%, we need to study Kabbalah and Chassidut because that will help us in all the mitzvot. But it's only one mitzvah. But however, if you really want to transform the world, you want to transform yourself. But once you transform yourself, become close to Hashem, then the goal is to transform the world. In order to transform the world, you have to do all the mitzvot. Okay, so that is one idea that the Alter Rebbe just explained, and he's going to go through now just several ideas of the power of mitzvot. So the first idea he explained, that when you do a mitzvah, you connect to the mahus of Hashem, versus when you're just meditating, you do it connecting on the mitzvahs of Hashem, but the mitzvah of Hashem is important. For that specific mitzvah. But we can't lose focus that we want to connect to the essence of Hashem, we have to do it through mitzvot. Okay. Now we're going to go with a little Kabbalah here, which I know you guys love, a little abstract stuff, and he says like this.
The essence of the mitzvah.
The essence is the mahus and the mitzvahs
of the Kabbalah. I just want to know which one we're going to
Kabbalah.
study.
Oh no! Now we're going to stay focused on the mitzvot. But no, good. We're going to stay on the mitzvah. We're going to talk another reason why mitzvot are so important. And the Alter explains like this: the mitzvot, just like we already mentioned before, but don't get into it. Stay focused. The mitzvot, where does it come from? The energy. So we already mentioned before. There's different names of Hashem. The most powerful name is Sag, Samach Gimel. Samach Gimel, it's used in the permutation of Yud Kei Vav Kei with the letter Vav. And again, it's not, we need another whole class to show you how it works. There's charts, etc. But for right now, take it on face value. Samach Gimel, Sag, which is basically the Yud Kei Vav Kei, Hashem's name, with the permutation of the Vav in there. Now, that powerful name of Hashem comes from, I'm telling you words, take it, I'll try to explain, and we'll have to get into it another time, comes from the pnimiyut, the essence of a very, very high spiritual level called Adam Kadmon, the primordial man, which Adam Kadmon. So again, mitzvot come from where? From Shem Sag, which is the Vav of Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is a pnimius of Adam Kadmon, which, as we mentioned before, is associated with Tohu. We're talking about heavy, heavy, powerful stuff. Now, that's what mitzvot come from. So again, mitzvot, where's the source of mitzvot? Sag, Vav, Tohu, Pnimius of Adam Kadmon, pretty high. We, right? Unless doesn't completely exclude, however you want to do it. But humans, where do we come from? We come from the name Shem Ma, Memhe, which is 45, which has the Yud Kei Vav Kei permutation with the letter Aleph, which doesn't come from the essence of Adam Kadmon, it comes from the forehead of Adam Kadmon. It comes from the forehead, so it's the external part of Adam Kadmon. Now, and that's already more associated with tikkun. So we come more from tikkun, from the metzach of Adam Kadmon, from the forehead of Adam Kadmon. Now, so it's very simple. So why do we do mitzvot? Because mitzvot come from a higher source. And that's the reason why we in this world, we eat from things that are alive, things that grow, doimim, because that also comes from a very high level. Because we need to elevate it from there. In other words, like this. So Mitzvot come from Sag, we're from Ma, and the reason why we do mitzvot is because that's a much powerful higher level there. And that's why, for example, we do mitzvot with physical things, because all those physical things, its source comes from much a higher level. Maybe in this world, we look like we're in a higher level, but we know it's an upside down world. But in the source, obviously, we're from a lower level. And therefore we're running to do mitzvot because we know the real juice, the real power, the real voltage, the real energy is in the mitzvot. Okay. So that's another reason. Another reason why we do mitzvot, because Hashem said like this, that Hashem said that in the Torah, when Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Hey, Hashem, show me your face," what did Hashem say? "Upanai, my face, my essence, light you can't see." Why? Because you can meditate and you can all that stuff. You're not going to see Hashem's face. You're not going to see it. However, mitzvot come from where? From netzach yisoid, of the emotions, and that couldn't come down to this world. So in meditation, all the great meditation, which is great, that will not bring down godliness into the world. Panei lo yiro, you can't bring it down to this world, versus mitzvah you can bring down to this world. Now, so that's another reason. There are many reasons. We'll go on to the next one. Next reason Alter Rebbe gives why mitzvah is so important is as follows: that ava and yira, love and awe, meditation, etc. Where does that come from? Like, why does someone love God? Why is someone in awe of God? Why? Because you see the light, you feel the light. So you see the light, you're running to the light. You love God, you love the light, or you're in awe of the light. Now the fact is, light is light. Light doesn't have the power to create. Light, you get excited in a positive way or a negative way. But you cannot create. Creation comes specifically from where? From the vessels. From the vessels you can create. So in other words, as much as you love God and you're in awe of God, nothing's happening. It's great. You're in awe and you're in love, but you're not creating anything. In order to create change, it only comes from the mitzvot. And that's why it says the angels that are created from Ziv and the Shikin, like from a very, very high level, guess what? There's no creation there. However, souls, we come from Kalim, and therefore we have the power to procreate and create and to do tremendous things in this world. Okay, that's another reason. Another reason the Alter Rebbe gives is like this. That what happens is like this. When a person gets, you meditate, I love God, I know of God, what happens to you? Think about what happens to you. I love God, I'm in awe of God. What happens to you? What happens?
Elevate.
You get elevate. It's keyword, elevate. You want to get higher. You want to elevate higher. You want to get closer to God, right? That comes from Av and Yira. So now, on the other hand, when you're doing a mitzvah, what do you do in a mitzvah? No, down here. Where's the parchment? I want to make the mezuzah. I want to make the tefillin. Shabbat, I'm going to Gai Kosher. What are you doing? You're not elevating. You're bringing down the light into this world. And the whole purpose why Hashem created the world was not for us to elevate the light, but on the contrary, to take this dark world that we're living in and bringing the light down to this world. That's why we mentioned before already, Moshe Rabbeinu prayed 515 times to go into the land of Israel because he wanted to bring light into the world. It's all about bringing light into the world. Now, so here's the question. So what happens like this. When you do a mitzvah, generally speaking, all the mitzvot are with physical things. For example, we just had the holiday Sukkot. You bought a lulav and esrog, you made the blessing, right? Ooh, and you did the mitzvah. So the question is, like, whoa, it's an esrog, it's a lulav, it's willows. How does that have the power to bring down this powerful light? How does it work? And the Alter Rebbe gives a very, very simple example. He says like this. Take, for example, you have a field. You have a field, whether a big field, a small field, and you want to grow some vegetables. So what do? You prepare the ground, you put the seeds inside, you put the water, boom, it grows. So the question is, how from a seed did you get a tree, whether it's tomatoes, apples, oranges, whatever it's growing? A little seed, come on. Explain to me how from a seed you have a tree. You take the seed, put it under a microscope, what are you going to see in there? Nothing. Not only that, when the seed goes in the ground, it rots. You know that? If you want, the seed rots. Boom, a tree came. And the answer is very, very simple. Because a seed doesn't create the tree. The ground creates the tree. Hashem made that in the ground that has the ability to create any tree. Any tree. When you put a seed from a tomato, it creates tomato. It says to the ground, "Woo, bring out tomatoes." You put in potato seeds, it says bring out potatoes. You put in watermelon seeds, it says bring out the watermelons. This one piece of ground can bring any tree you want. The fact is good. Clear it up, put in a different seed, it comes out. So the ground has the ability to bring it out. The seed is just like a call, a text, an email, a WhatsApp, whatever you want to call it. Hey, bring out the goods, right? That's all it does. It brings out the goods. So Hashem said the same thing also. The esrig, the lulav, etc. It's a physical thing. But when you take those physical things that Hashem tells you to, it's like sending a text or an email or WhatsApp or an electronic signal to where? All the way up to Shem Sag. And it wakes up Shem Sag that causes the light to come down, and all the light comes in the world and transforms the world. So it's not, you got it?
Right, when you say the ground is a medium, because
Yes.
sometimes just water can open the sea.
100%.
It's a medium.
It's a medium, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You got it? So that's where the power of the item is. It's basically like a wake-up call to create the reality. Okay. But now the Alter Rebbe addresses another issue, and that's like this. We just spoke about the power of doing the 248 mitzvot. You do a mitzvah, creates an energy up to the Shem Sag, and it brings down this powerful light into the world, and you elevate the world. What happens with the 365 negative command? You're not doing it. You have to buy a positive command. You're doing this, putting on tefillin, kosher, mezuzot. The negative commands, you're not doing anything. What are you doing? You're just not doing. So by not doing, you're creating all these holy sparks. Right? Obviously, it's something it takes a lot of power not to do. If you have like a certain urge to do something and you hold back, something's, whoa, I don't even know how he was able to overcome. But you overcome. Or, for example, let's say you're learning things in the Torah that don't necessarily apply to you. It doesn't apply today. I mean, certain mitzvot don't necessarily apply today. We don't have to make the mikdash. So you're learning laws that's not practical today. So how does that work? So the author explains very, very simple. That what is the Torah? Torah is, in Hebrew, in Kabbalistic language, it's called Chachma Ilah. We have intellect. That's our intellect. But the Torah is a Chachma Ilah, it's Hashem's intellect. So when a person studies anything in the Torah, that even if it doesn't apply today, but it's Hashem's Chachma Ilah, or when you refrain from transgressing one of the 365 negative commandments, you cause the spark of Chachma Ilah to light up. And that powerful light of Chachma Ilah comes down to this world. And when that comes down to this world, it comes down with no concealment. Think about it. Hashem gave us a Torah with 248 positive commands and 360 negatives and all the halachot. And you start learning it. You're awakening the high level of Chachma that comes down to this world with no concealment, nothing holding back nothing. So you're bringing down that powerful light into this world. Notice, even as it descends into this world, it comes down with nothing holding back. Because when you meditate, so it's diluted. You're not getting the essence, as we said before. However, when you're learning the 365 negative commands, even though, or mitzvah that you're not doing, it draws down the powerful light. And what happens is, it goes down into the Torah, which is godly, which goes down into your neshama, which is godly. So your neshama actually lights up. So you're creating like a 360 circle. You start learning, or you start, refrain from doing a mitzvah, one of the negative precepts. The light goes up, and you enlighten Chachma Ilah, which goes through the Torah, which goes back into your neshama. Now, and here the Alter finishes off with a very, very powerful idea, and it's as follows. That when you study, there's two ways to study. There's one way you study, it's a fine difference. You're a conduit. You're sitting with humility, and you want to know, what does Hashem have to say? So you're literally like a conduit for information. Or you're like a sponge that's taking it all in. Or you can be someone, you start using your intellect, and you forget a little bit that Hashem wrote the Torah, and you're already you start giving your own interpretations and your own insights, and you start cutting corners. You make your version of the Torah. It happens, unfortunately, a lot. It happens. It happens from the smallest to biggest people. because our mind plays tricks on us. Our mind is a tremendous gift from Hashem, but our mind sometimes can be our biggest enemy. So you start coming up with all these ideas. So the Alter Rebbe says like this: when you start learning and you start using your own ideas, you start creating garments. Now, when you start creating garments, you can literally start creating angels. You have to realize you're playing with fire because you're playing with the Torah. So it's like a mix. On one hand, you're learning Hashem's Torah, but on the other hand, you're like starting to, like, it's like you have a car. Any of you guys have a car, you know what I'm talking about? And you're going at 90 miles per hour on the highway, you should only be going 60, and all of a sudden it's at night, you don't see, and you go off the wrong exit, and you didn't even realize you went off the exit, and before you know it, you're like an hour and a half out of the way. Now to go back, how long does it take? It takes 3 hours, an hour and a half only out of the way. Now, before I know it, to get back to the point where it's 3 hours. Why is that? Because you have a powerful car. If you didn't have a powerful car, guess what? You wouldn't be going so fast. You would have noticed, and you would have stayed on the right road. So that's where it's very, very interesting. When you study Torah, you're dealing with the Torah, but we also have a mind, and then we can take a detour. I think like this, but think a minute. Is this what Hashem is trying to say, or you're like sticking in your own idea? So because when you come to your own idea, you create garments because you're dealing with the Torah. You're using powerful energy, using the Torah, so you can really create garments. However, when you study Torah with humility, then you're connected to the highest level, and you draw down that highest level into the world. And because ultimately, what's the goal? As we said before, it's not about elevation. It's about drawing down the highest level in this world. Now, what happens if you're just trying to create holy sparks, that's elevation. The goal is to connect or bring down the holiness. And again, because Torah is so powerful, and you study for the wrong intention, you're going to create angels, but possibly not the right ones. The goal is not to create angels. The goal is to touch the divine and to bring divine down into this world. So as you can see, this chapter is a very, very powerful chapter. It's a chapter that we can... I was thinking maybe we should divide it up and do it over a couple of weeks, but again, we never did one chapter more than... We did a whole chapter every time. So I figured, even though it's heavy, we'll do the whole complete chapter, and then we can have different classes. But the point is, just to recap, this chapter teaches us, chapter 4, in the last section of Tanya, teaches us two very, very important ideas. Many, but obviously a lot of Kabbalah, but two major points. Point is that, like the Arizal says in Xayim, that today the main avoda is prayer, but real prayer. Prayer, sincerity, prayer from the depths of our hearts, because when you pray from your depths of our hearts, it literally goes to the highest places, and it draws down light into this world. It literally can change things. It can change your mazel, it can change people, it can heal people, it can bring you blessings that's beyond. And that's why it's very, very important to pray, especially now that you know how it works. So now that you know how it works, and you know it works, so let's do it. That's point number one. Point number two is the tremendous impact of doing mitzvot. Because you can meditate and all great things, but if you get to do the mitzvah, you're missing the whole point. Because it's very important to do the mitzvah, because when a person does the mitzvah, you're actually touching the essence of Hashem. And when you're touching the essence of Hashem, you're drawing down the essence of Hashem, whether you're doing a positive mitzvah, or you're refraining from doing a negative, or you're studying Torah about the mitzvot, you're literally drawing down the light into this world. And the goal is not to just go on a spiritual journey. The goal is to bring Hashem down into this world, and the more we bring down Hashem in this world, we will elevate all the holy sparks, and we know when all the holy sparks are elevated, we'll all be merited to see the blessing of coming Mashiach. So let's hope and pray that we really walk away from this chapter in a real strong way, and we transform the world, we transform ourselves, and we can continue learning Chassidut. We'll be able to connect to Hashem like we learned in this chapter, that by studying Chassidut, we have the power that we're able to connect to Hashem in a deep way, and to serve Hashem with love and with awe, and really connect to Hashem in such a beautiful, powerful way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi.